it's still all really surreal. Like, it doesn't really feel like real life.
I think also the truth is we're just so busy and we're so tired that you don't really have the time. Like, we have moments where we're like, oh my God, like, what are we doing? But most of the time it's like, right, we need to do this, 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 and this. What time can you do this? Let's message this person. That's just how it's been for months. So
autopilot, flying by the seat of our pants.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've done amazing, honestly. It's like world domination.
I know, absolutely.
Oh my God.
Thank you.
It's bizarre.
Yeah, I think
over Christmas.
Sorry.
I said over Christmas it might all hit you and you'll be like, oh my God.
Well, this is the thing. We don't really have a break planned, and that's what I keep thinking is maybe at some point we should have a break, and then that's when we'll be like, oh Christ. But as of yet, there's not one to come for any time soon. We've got interviews scheduled right up till like spring, and then plans to go on the road. So yeah, there's no stopping.
Amazing. Honestly, you've done such an amazing job, and it's so refreshing to just listen to, to someone that you relate to, and it's so authentic. Like, you can just tell that you're just so open about everything. And it's,
I think
you made me feel so normal. Like, literally, there's moments I just laugh and I'm like, oh my God, I've been doing that for so long.
Yeah.
There's something seriously wrong with me, and yeah, it's just been so refreshing to hear.
Oh, thank you. I think genuinely sometimes we forget that we're recording.
Yeah.
And that's why it sounds authentic, because it is just the two of us sat in Dawn's house.
And that's it. And we don't really script anything.
Nothing scripted, apart from when we do the interviews, the questions are the same. But everything when it is just you and me, we just
chat.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it comes across really well. And I just can't wait to see what else you've got planned for next year.
Thank you.
Yeah, so excited.
And likewise.
I feel like I know you, but this is the first time we've actually.
Yeah.
Me mad with voice notes on how do I do
Not
this?
At all.
How do I do that? No, thank you. Honestly, it's been so helpful. I've just got to get the editing stuff sorted after this, so I've got all your videos ready to help me. Thank you for that. Okay, so should we make a go then? Should we make a start and see what happens?
Yeah.
Yay. Okay. So welcome. I'm so happy to have you here. So grateful. I was thinking, should we just kick off with, the story behind your diagnosis, how it all happened? Because obviously you've got different stories.
Yeah. So I was speaking to a friend, and she mentioned a friend of hers had just been diagnosed with ADHD. And she said, I'm not being funny, Dawn, but when she was describing her symptoms, it sounded like she was describing you. And I'd kind of thought about the ADHD thing a few times over the years. And it wasn't until that moment that I was like, maybe I should start taking this more seriously. And then I just started diving in. And the more I dove into it, I was like, oh, wow, this really is me. Yeah. And then approached my GP, did some questionnaires and started the process from there. It was a long process with the NHS, and I did a lot of chasing to try and get my appointments and chase things up. I'd also started university in September 21, so I was kind of a bit apprehensive about that, because the reason I'd never done university before is because I didn't have the self-belief and I didn't think I was academic. But now learning about ADHD, I'm like, there's maybe something else at play.
Yeah.
So I went to the university and approached them and told them about the ADHD process that I was going through. And they sent me to an educational psychologist. They assessed me, told me I had ADHD, thought this would hopefully speed up the process with the NHS because I had, a report in writing, but it didn't. No. I continued to chase them and eventually got an appointment, which turned out to be one of however many, I didn't know. And that was a bit heartbreaking because I thought I had a diagnosis at that first appointment.
Nothing was communicated.
Yes, it was just really bad communication, and it just didn't seem very professional. No. And I was heartbroken, so it kind of pushed me to get a private diagnosis. And if it wasn't for the help of our listeners that have been like so generous in donating towards our Buy Me a Coffee fund, I wouldn't have been able to afford the private diagnosis. So I'm eternally grateful to all of our listeners for that. And I got my diagnosis a week ago.
Yeah.
And so,
how exciting!
yeah. So thank you so much. Yeah, just like the initial relief and validation, because even though I knew already from the university, I didn't have that medical diagnosis, so I wasn't able to access any medical help, and
the imposter syndrome was creeping in.
Yeah, and the imposter syndrome was definitely starting to creep in again, and just the relief and validation. And now I am just waiting to get a call back from the practice pharmacist today, and hopefully get confirmation of when I'm starting my medication.
Oh my God, how exciting is that? Because before you were diagnosed and you thought I might have ADHD, what was your intention? Was you always willing, like, I want the meds? Did you know that it was going to help, or what?
For a start, I think I thought the meds were a miracle cure. I did. I had it in my head. I was like, I'm going to get these medications and I'm going to be a different person.
And then she saw me.
Not at all. Having done a lot more research into the meds and having a better understanding of them, and I realise now that they're not a miracle cure, but they're there to assist you.
Yeah.
So I'm a bit more realistic about them now. And I'm still a bit apprehensive because I don't like the idea of being on medication for the rest of my days or however long. But if they can help me and help alleviate some of these symptoms that I experience, then it's worth giving them a go. Absolutely.
Yeah, because I think you hear a lot of people saying, and obviously you're medicated, aren't you? But
yeah,
then it gives you that foundation to be able to, so it helps with some of the stuff, quietens down some of the noise, and then that just gives you the ability to sort of work on the stuff that still needs help. You need help with hacks and whatever it is that you need help with to do that. So even just to have that little bit of, just turning the volume down a little bit.
That's it.
Incredible, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. And I've got 2.5 years still left at uni. So if that can help me get through uni, then it's a godsend, really.
Yeah.
Exactly. What are you studying at uni?
I'm doing 3D design at the art school up in Aberdeen. So ceramics and jewellery and product design and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so happy that you've got your diagnosis, and I'm really excited to see where, your journey, where it takes you once you start to take the meds and stuff, to see what happens.
Thank you.
So what about you, Laura? So what was your story behind it?
So it's very, very similar. I have a really good friend who sat me down in 2018 and said that she had just been diagnosed with ADHD, but she, to my mind, is like got it all together, really successful, ducks in a row kind of a person. So I was just like, right, like, how does that make sense? Okay, so explain it to me. And she started to say different symptoms that she suffered with. And I was just like, oh my God, like, if you've got it, then I've definitely got it. And she said, yeah, that's kind of why I'm telling you about it. So I was like, yeah, okay. And so I went away and went to the GP. Same, filled in the forms. My husband filled in the other side of it to, give another opinion or whatever. Sent those off and heard back from the NHS that there would be an 18-month wait. But then COVID happened as well, so we'll give them that. But yeah, I've never heard back from that ever. So when we moved and obviously with the pandemic and moving to Scotland, it just got sort of pushed to one side. Other life things happened, and then I obviously met Dawn, and we moved to the same street, same time, same age, got together for a barbecue, and she said something like, oh sorry if I talk too much, I think I've got ADHD.
And I was pissed.
And we were pissed, yeah. And I was like, oh no way, so do I. And so then at that point, we both sort of went, okay, then, through my husband's work, he just got private healthcare, and that gave me access to it. So I looked, I've got in touch with Bupa and said, is ADHD diagnosis covered? And they said, well, it is if it's affecting your mental health and you have like anxiety, depression. I was just like, yeah, look at my medical notes.
Yeah.
That's me. So yeah, I'm covered for that. So then that was like, where are we talking? October of last year. And then they said, yeah, you should go to this psychiatrist, but I had to track her down and do the admin again, like even private.
Yeah.
And she was busy, and I had to find all these different email addresses. I couldn't get hold of her. Eventually got hold of her, and she said that I could have the assessment in January. So January of this year. And it was just one phone call, and that was it. And that's part, it's kind of strange because although I can really see the benefit, like Dawn has her full breakdown of everything.
Yeah.
And she's had a lot, she's been shown graphs and things like that. And although it would be nice to have more info than I have, who says info? Info than I have, me having that really easy experience and very quick experience has partly driven what all this is about.
Yeah.
Because there shouldn't be that disparity. Dawn has now been diagnosed privately, and she has had to have school reports. Thank God I didn't, because I don't have them. She's had to have, friends write stuff. She's had to have like proof. Yeah. And I didn't even have any of that. I'm on the phone saying, well, I do move my feet all the time. My husband talks about it, blah, blah, blah. She can't see my feet, but she took my word for it. Yeah. And yeah, so that's kind of part of it. It's just like, I know, I've really gone into one now, but you've got me started. I know how easy this can be.
Yeah, so why is it so?
So why? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Why does anybody have to prove anything? Especially when you're thinking about the NHS, who are underfunded, under-resourced. They're telling Dawn, well, it takes 8 hours to assess somebody. The second appointment was 4 months apart from the first appointment. So how long are we talking? When actually, I spoke to somebody on the phone for an hour, and that was me. But unfortunately, then the GP was funny about shared care. So we had about a 2-month battle of getting them to give me the medication, because they said, we've never prescribed this medication to anybody at this surgery before. So we don't know anything about it, and we don't feel comfortable doing it. And it was horrible. I was literally bawling my eyes out on the phone to this woman, like, do you not understand what you're doing here? Like, I've just finally got the answers that I've needed my whole life, and you're just telling me, sorry, we don't do that one. Like, no, go and find out about it. The psychiatrist has said, this is what I need for my brain.
I think that's the thing as well. It's the education in the with the doctors and GPs. Like, they don't know hardly anything. And I think someone mentioned they have like a day's training, or I think it's an hour. The average GP has an hour. That's the core of the problem, isn't it? It's like, if they don't know, and if they haven't got the information, then how can they help anyone?
Yeah, and the studies, by the by, are mostly on young, physically hyperactive little boys. Yeah. So even if they did dive straight into it, there isn't enough research for them to,
Yeah, they're just.
You can tell well that that's what it is, because there's no consistency, like you said.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was away to say. It's consistency they need across the board.
Which shows up as like you haven't got a clue what you're doing, because two people could use the NHS and still get two different experiences. You can go private, you can go NHS, get different experiences. There's just no consistency.
There's such disparity. Even with the NHS, it is a postcode lottery, literally. And on top of that, you have GPs that are gatekeeping. So that the irony being is that in order to get assessed by the people who actually know, you have to be given the green light by somebody who doesn't.
Yeah.
And then even in 2 private, psychiatrist assessments down the road from each other, because we're in Aberdeen, our experiences were entirely different. And I have to say as well, the thing is, like, part of my ADHD, or byproduct of, is that I don't trust my own judgment, and everyone else knows better than me. And having had that experience, I know that I'm right for once in my life. I actually know something. Nobody can tell me otherwise, because I have had that first-hand experience, and I've had first-hand experience of all the times I've gone to the GP for depression, anxiety, eating disorder stuff. And I'm telling you, it's basically the same thing. Like, all they do is ask you a list of questions and they give you a packet of pills. And that's how simple it can be. And that's how simple it should be, because it would literally save so much time, so much money in resources, and actual lives.
That's the thing. It's almost like they're making it harder for themselves, like you said.
Exactly that.
Literally be so much easier. You could,
it
takes up so much of their time, and hence why it's taken so long. But it doesn't have to be that way. And do you think, going back to what you said about your mental health, because that's a big topic for me, and everything I do around the yoga and meditation and stuff.
Yes,
that's what drove me to do this in the first place. I know that I listened to your, I can't remember what episode it was, but there was a question presented to you about, what does your ADHD cost you? To you both, and the answer you gave was, it nearly cost me my life. And that really hit home to me at that moment, is like how important it is. What we're doing, because
one in five. What is it? ADHD is 5 times more likely to commit suicide, and isn't it 1 in 5 ADHD women has attempted suicide? I'd need to fact check that, but I'm pretty sure that's the statistic.
Oh my god! And that's the thing. Was it your? Can you go into a bit of detail about what that? Both of you, your mental health before being diagnosed, or even having an idea that ADHD was even on the cards. How detrimental to your life was that?
I mean, for me, I'm fortunate in that I've never really been in any bad, dark, like really dark places. I've never had any suicidal thoughts. But I have been in some dark places, and usually it's through relationship breakdowns and putting myself into toxic relationships, into abusive environments, and accepting that this is okay, and that I won't get better. And that's it's a self-worth thing. It's 100% a self-worth thing, and that self-worth, or lack of self-worth, has come from undiagnosed ADHD, because it's that constantly trying but never being able to achieve, and failing, and people, like teachers when I was younger, always saying could do better, and just that constant knockbacks just really over time grate on you, and you just don't think you're a good person, or you're good enough, and
you're worthy.
Never feeling enough.
And I totally resonate with that, and I think as well what it is it's the we're fire and wiring those neural pathways, aren't we, of the negativity, the negative self-talk, the self-doubt, and that becomes part of who you become.
And I think
very unconfident and don't believe in yourself, and
and I think that you're constantly trying to meet your own expectations, which you can't. Then that makes it even harder to meet anyone else's expectations. Not that you should try and meet other people's expectations, but when you can't even meet your own, then you're just falling short, or you feel like you're falling short everywhere.
And if you think about it as well, it's like, we, in our online community, we've got predominantly women, haven't we? And I swear to God, you've never seen the word narcissist so many times. It's like we're magnets for bad behavior. We have such low self-worth that we accept the unacceptable, because and that further grates on you. So you're constantly in this cycle of trying to please people, putting up with bullshit, which makes you feel worse, and on and on and on we go till you're just at rock bottom.
I guess it doesn't help, especially like when it comes to relationships, that we're dopamine driven. So if something's fun and exciting, we'll get hooked really quickly and pulled in. And usually that's the narcissists that are great at doing that. So that's
so interesting, isn't it? And so with you, Laura, in your mental health, it was a bit deeper than that, wasn't it? It was like
I've always had really acute anxiety, like a constant worry, a constant dread, like a lead weight is about to fall from the sky onto my head. And I did have a difficult childhood, and so you know, part of the trauma of all of that masked this feeling as a symptom, you know, because I kind of sensed this danger. I was walking on eggshells, and so you put it to that. That's what I'm worried about. I'm worried about this thing. And it was a friend a few years ago now. She said, somebody that we knew said they were suffering with anxiety, and somebody else said that they were as well. And I said, oh gosh, poor them. Like I've never had that. And she laughed. And she went, are you joking? I was like, what? She's like, you are the most anxious person I have ever met in my life. And I was like, well, no, that's not anxiety. That's not like medical. It's like trauma and worry and there's shit going on. And she was just like, no, like you do have anxiety. And then that kind of just living like that, living in worry, living in fear and dread, like that in itself is pretty depressing, right? Yeah. And if you are this person who is getting yourself in dangerous situations, letting yourself down, letting other people down, getting in shit relationships and putting up with awful things, as Dawn said, like it grates and grates and grates on you until eventually I was just, sorry, I'm taking a while to get there. It's a bit early for me. I'm very but it's like, I think the best way I can describe it is that life had sort of knocked me, and I couldn't see the point in it. I couldn't see the point in anything. And so I've seeking dopamine and sunshine and happy times, I kind of went and threw myself at all of these, in Ibiza town, actually, on top of we call it the castle, don't we? But in Dock Villa, and I was stood there, and I could hear, like, my internal monologue was saying, like, can I swear a lot?
Yeah.
It was saying, like, you're fucked. You're absolutely fucked, and you always have been, and you always will be. And you had a chance at a happy life and you fucked that as well. And there's no fucking point in anything. Just throw yourself off. This voice in my head basically telling me to stop myself for fucking years. And it just kind of masked it enough. I'd kind of just kept myself busy enough that I didn't hear it. And in that moment I heard it, but knew that I'd been saying it to myself for absolutely years. And I didn't throw myself off. And I decided, I've been diagnosed with ADHD. I'm on medication and it has absolutely changed my life. And I don't even have anxiety, genuinely. So fuck that theory. Yeah. Basically, because if, I could have potentially got diagnosed even earlier. I could have got diagnosed, I could have found out about it earlier if it wasn't for this idea. Today, I've always had these symptoms since childhood. I've taken medication and it has taken away my symptoms to such a degree that I effectively have a different life. Things that we've seen is like there was more media coverage last ADHD Awareness Month than there was this ADHD Awareness Month. And that worries me. Because what I think is that actually, like we've said, this monumental moment of mass awareness, this idea of a trend, this buzzword, like actually, as everyone in the neurodivergent community is becoming aware and having this moment, many neurotypicals are just fucking sick of hearing about it. Yeah. So that worries me.
Yeah, and then you get articles being published in The Guardian, like the one.
Oh. Like that one,
not helping the situation.
It's really, so my worry, like, we really are reaching out to a lot of people and we know that we're helping a lot of people. It would just be really nice if people that weren't neurotypical listen to us too. Yeah, exactly. I mean, weren't neurodivergent, listen to us too. Yeah,
and we do have some.
We do have some, but I mean, took it as seriously and realised how big it is. The online community, everything that's going on. We live in this echo chamber and it's all around us all the time. But for example, if the Guardian understood what was actually going on, and therefore were able to view ADHD as a disability, there's no way that article would have ever been published, because they wouldn't have discredited any other group of disabled people. So it just goes to show how different it looks from inside and outside, that you could even think that would be acceptable.
So how do you think that we go about, obviously doing what we're all trying to do is spread the word, and as you say, the people that have got ADHD or think they have seem to be, really interested and want to listen. How do you think we can spread the message without, uh, with neurotypicals, that to make it as serious to them without them feeling it? Because I think that's the thing with ADHD. Unless you're living with it, it's such a, it's a mental thing that's going on. So people don't understand what we're talking about. So how do we get that across? How do we get them to listen to us in a serious way?
We unite.
Yeah.
We soldier on.
That's it. And I think it's communication. We just have to keep having conversations. We wonder if they started treating everybody that has ADHD instead of the comorbidities associated with it, then perhaps in the long term, a lot of money would be saved.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Of course it would. Yeah.
It's across the board problem. You've got, teenage pregnancies. Like we said, unemployment. We make up a huge percentage of the unemployed population are ADHD. Like all of these big problems, if we can just invest in this side, the money and lives, literal lives, that would be saved.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I want to ask it, but it's going back a little bit. Sorry, I know.
All right, we always do.
I think it's like that. It's almost like a relief, isn't it? Like, I think first you go through that moment of like, oh my God, it explains so much. But then you start digging deeper. And then did you go through that stage of like, a lot of people talk about it, like a grieving stage of looking back. Once you have that relief and like, oh my God, there is a reason why I'm like I am.
Yeah.
Did you have that moment, both of you, like where it's like you had to go think back on your life and think, oh my God, if I'd have known then this wouldn't have happened? And
shed loads. We call it relief. It's grief and relief mixed together, but it's like
that's a good way of describing
they call it the late diagnosis roller coaster. So instead of a grief, it's like a roller coaster. And she said, well, I feel like I've been on a roller coaster. If you get to the point of getting a diagnosis, you've already been on a roller coaster your whole life. And actually, when you get that diagnosis, you're realizing that life is always going to be a bit like this. You're not gonna have the answer. You're not gonna have the magic pill. So actually, it's acceptance in that moment. Accept the past and go, make my peace with it. It's okay. I don't need to be angry. I don't need to be upset. And what I hadn't realized is that actually that's the acceptance. The acceptance isn't the grievances and anything else. It's accepting that you are actually always going to have it, and it's always going to be a bit difficult. There's always you're always in some degree. She says it's like living with a tornado in your wake kind of thing, and it's
almost like you're not waiting to become all of a sudden. I used to always think, when am I going to, when is it going to be that moment of feeling fixed or whatever language I was using at that time. It's you sort of let go of that. You're like, no, this is me, and this is how it's going to be, and I'm going to make the best of be the best version of me as I am. What I've got. And
because it's like you say, the knock-on effect of all of those things is then what you're left with, and that's what you work through, is like you say, building back up confidence that you potentially never had, because what was it, 20,000 more negative comments as a child than a neurotypical.
Wrong. I do go back there and sometimes think, well, imagine if this had happened and that had happened, and I do have to stop myself, because it's just like, I know
you can't change the past, can you?
Exactly.
No.
And I think it's a lot that's what I think a lot of work is what's needed, isn't it? With people with ADHD, is the rewiring, because it's just so strong within us to sit there and feel negative and worthless. And I think that's the work, isn't it? Trying to become present and use all these amazing tools that are out there now, like whether it's meditation is your tool, movement, whatever it is, to bring you into present moment and feel good now, so you can make an impact in the future for other people and in this moment, like what you're doing. Do you use any other tool, aside from medication? What else has really helped you, would you say, with your ADHD? Is there anything that you do in your daily routines, or I don't know what sort of wellness, well-being related stuff?
There's little hacks, like through our community and speaking to some of our patrons, I can never say that word, patrons, like we're learning from each other, which is really helpful, and learning little hacks. So like Laura and I body double quite often. We'll work together. We find it that we get
much more done.
So much
Do you
more
find
done.
that really works?
It's time together. Whereas I think, especially, I mean, voice notes is fine, but with messages backwards and forwards with two people that do have RSD or that are people pleasers, you're trying really hard to convey things or not take things the wrong way and blah, blah, blah. Whereas actually when you just sat in a room, it's like, can you pass me that? Yes. There's no problem.
Yeah.
There's nothing
You can't sense the tone of a text message,
I think, but it's a good point. Like being part of the community, that's what's helpful is in the camaraderie of that and understanding that you're not alone and the shared experience for people, like we say, we've always felt like aliens and now we've found there's a whole planet's worth of us, like that's really healing in itself. Always bang on about is self-inventory, and it's actually about really, really looking at where you struggle. And I think the thing is you hide a lot from yourself. Never mind masking to other people, you mask to yourself. Like, stupid shit like that, actually look at it, because you're going to turn around to somebody and say, I've got really bad postage anxiety. Now that's nuts. It's stupid. Actually, do you know what? It's real. It's actually real, and it affected my life. And so you can only hack your ADHD because it's going to be so individual to every single person. If you're prepared to really look at yourself and say what it is that you can't actually handle, that you can't deal with. I mean, there's loads of
Whereas I wouldn't even make it to the post office because the parcel in my
side of that coin is rationalizing.
Yeah.
Right. So if you can find some evidence, like one thing that is true, then when your brain starts to tell you lies, you can use that piece of evidence. So the amount of times, right? So that is finding evidence. It's just having a fucking word with yourself all the time, isn't it?
Oh yeah. Those irrational thoughts will always creep in, and like some of the ridiculous irrational thoughts that come into my brain is just like when I'm driving the car, and it's just like, oh, imagine if I turn the steering wheel to the left. It's like, oh, imagine what would happen, and it's that's a rational thought. And in most times you can rationalize like, well, you're not going to do that. Like, just continue driving.
God. Can we talk about driving actually? Because I'm quite interested to know other people's experiences with ADHD and driving. Do you both drive, by the way?
No, I can't. No.
Did you try?
No, I've tried a few times, but it's a really genuine, like, I can't even grasp the concept. And this is another thing that I didn't realize until I realized it was ADHD, is I actually basically zone out as soon as I get in a car, or I'll give myself something to do. And I never realized I was doing it. What it is I'm from a different planet, and I don't get how the fuck anybody is doing that. Like, I look at people, I'm like, oh, you're just gonna get in your car and like just drive. All right. Okay, and you're just going to trust that everybody else on the road is going to keep out of your way and that you're going to be all right. We're doing this now. Okay, great. I think everyone's nuts. That's how I see it. I look at everyone else, I'm like, you are nuts, but they're not. But that's how I see it. So no, I can't drive. I never will drive. And it's not just because I can't do all of those things at once, which I can't. It's because it just feels so abnormal. I don't understand it. I always had dreams that I'd killed somebody and that I buried the body somewhere and I had to find it. This from when I was a really tiny child.
Better watch myself.
Yeah. It's very important that, like we mentioned, we hear a lot of negative, self-talk. We hear, criticism all the time, and we really hang on to that, don't we? Like, we dwell on that and it becomes part of us, and it's really hard to keep rewiring and trying to get people with ADHD to start feeling, positive about themselves and feel good about themselves. And that's really part of my mission, is I really want to, but I want to ensure that whilst we're trying to give the message of ADHD is really important, it needs to be, treated better, we need more support. I also want people listening to feel, have hope and walk away sometimes thinking, okay, this is a serious thing that I've got. I need treatment. I need help. But it's not, it doesn't mean I can't go on to live a life I truly desire. For instance, look what you've done. You've done amazing things. And there's so many people with ADHD that have done wonderful things with their lives.
Yeah.
So I want to present a question, and we can change it if it doesn't sit right. But is there something within your ADHD, a symptom, or something that you've struggled with, that you can think, okay, right, that's caused a lot of negativity in my life, a lot of stress, or made things difficult. However, I've either been able to transfer it into a strength as well, or I can see that there are, throughout my life that has also given me, I don't know, opportunities, or, a positive outlook on it, or a spin. Because I think,
I've got a really good one.
Oh, go on. I'm excited.
Injustice sensitivity.
Oh.
It means that we can fight to this cause until we're in our graves, basically. Yeah. There's a really good one. I've spent a lot of time, somebody upset big the other day, and you saw me, I was livid. That's not good. That's not a positive trait to be so concerned about other people that you could literally throttle somebody.
I had to hold her.
I had to hold her back. If we didn't have that, there's no way we would have done this.
Yeah.
And there's no way we would work like we've worked for 7 months. There's no way that we would, and through that, we've made loads and loads of differences to people. We really, really have. People getting diagnosed, people feeling validated, people getting help in the workplace, at university. People have told us, many people have told us, that we have literally changed their lives, which is ridiculous, but amazing to have actually been able to make a difference. That rage and that injustice sensitivity and that fight, and the fact that I don't sleep.
For me, I think with undiagnosed ADHD robbed me my identity. Absolutely robbed me my identity. I was so consumed in people pleasing that I was a chameleon, and I was being whatever I could be for anybody else, but really not living to my values and being what I wanted to be. And I think, having got my diagnosis, I'm now finding that identity. And I think that's a huge positive for me. And now I'm learning to find out what my values are and live to my values and be the person I want to be. And I've learned that through doing that, I'm being accepted for me and who I am.
And what a wonderful feeling is that, though. It's this is the biggest thing that's come from all of the stuff, the podcast and the community. It's we haven't got to pretend.
Well, that's it. That's it. I've hated myself for so long and hid myself from so many people, and now it's I'm coming out of hiding and people don't hate me.
No.
And I'm oh wow, okay. Maybe I just need to be myself all along. And that's been the best thing out of this diagnosis for me. Someone had asked us a question. It's who were you before your ADHD diagnosis? And I said, I was everyone else.
Oh wow.
So I was.
Time and effort just trying to be so many different things. It's really, when Laura said as well, she's running, you're going to different countries, or you're trying all different jobs. I don't know, you're trying to be so many different people, when all along, all you needed to know was, this is who I am, and it's okay to be me as I am.
So validating.
It is so validating. It's just life changing. A podcast years ago, I think it was Oprah, and she was interviewing someone who had had cancer, and went on to really support lots of other people, and raise money for cancer research and what have you. And she asked her a question: if she could go back, would she still choose to have had the disease, the illness, knowing what she's achieved now after having it? And her answer was, I wouldn't change anything. And I was quite taken back by that answer. So I wanted to present the question to you guys as well, because knowing the struggles you've gone through with ADHD and how how much impact that's had in a really negative way on your lives. And we've heard your stories now. It's been really serious stuff, that it's affected you with. What you're achieving right this second now and who you're helping, would you choose a life with or without ADHD?
It's such an interesting question, because we've been asked this before. If we could go back and not have ADHD, would you? Yeah, 100%.
We both said
but
that.
when you rephrase that question and talk about what we're doing now, it does make you think, because we feel like great pride in what we've accomplished over this last 7 months.
Even though it doesn't feel like we've done it, but when we can take it as our own accomplishment.
We pride in what we've done over the last months, and the messages that we've had from people telling us how much we've helped them, and if we didn't have any of this, then we wouldn't have achieved any of that. So
yeah, I agree.
Oh, yeah,
it's a really tough one, because it's like, I know that my impulsivity and recklessness, and just need to run away from myself and distract myself constantly has opened a lot of doors, and I've had some really amazing life experiences that kind of make my life, really, that I'm so happy to have had. So that's the double-edged sword of it. But now, obviously first getting diagnosed, and the last few years have been so hard for everybody. At that point when we were asked that question before, I just wanted things to not be hard anymore. It's like, nothing's worth any of this, I just need a break. But
actually, like what kind of day you're having as well with it,
but actually no, if we didn't have ADHD, then we wouldn't have helped all these people that have. And we're 7 months in, this is only the beginning for us. We are going to make things, we're going to make change happen.
Imagine in 7 months.
Which makes me sound so arrogant. I know it does, but the truth is, obviously I have, my husband's really supportive, and I'm very lucky, it's so fantastic. But him aside, I don't really have anything to lose.
No.
There has to be, it's like, I'm going to just keep going, and I'm going to keep fighting. And, we've got things wrong sometimes. And we just say, we got shit wrong sometimes. Just be brave and keep fighting, because, if we can do all this in 7 months, what can we do in 7 years, Dawn?
That's what I think of ADHD, though. It's like relentless. Once we've got our mindset on something, you're going to go for it. So it's just endless possibilities for what you're going to achieve now.
And that's it. And I mean, if we didn't have ADHD, we maybe would have gone on to do other things and some other great things, or whatever. Who knows what could have come of it. But I think where we are just now and what we're doing, and it just feels right, and
everything feels really serendipitous.
It was always meant to happen this way.
Alternate, just be a rebel and add an extra bit into it.
You can.
I'll keep the ADHD, but can you take the RSD?
Oh, please,
That's the one.
I think mine would be that. The RSD.
That's the one.
I mean, honestly, even now, I said to my mum this morning, I said, this is the thing, the RSD, I look back at the amount of time I've wasted because of RSD.
Yesterday we did
literally every aspect of my life.
Yesterday we got an email from somebody that wound me up. And about an hour later, we were just having lunch, and I was I still went to the toilet, so I was on my own. And I was like, oh, something's wrong. Dawn came back. I'm like, why am I upset? I'm upset about something. I don't even know what it is. It was just the residual hangover from 2-second email that was sorted.
That was resolved,
and then I'd even forgotten what it was, but it still lingered in me. This this dread and this worry,
And actually, if you've got time, can we go into just a little bit, explain what RSD is to some people listening may know.
You got time?
Yeah. Because I think as well, it's important to know this, because when choosing relationships, choosing friendships, I think for people with ADHD, it's even more important, and work environments, because we are so sensitive to how people, treat.
That's why we're people pleasers.
Yeah, exactly. So could you just describe in a short, just as briefly what RSD is? So everyone listening.
So rejection sensitive dysphoria is the bane of my existence. ADHD's existence. It is this idea. It's not just about rejection. It's not just a fear of rejection. It's not that straightforward. It's a perception. It's a perceived fear. It's a worry that you have to be a certain way to be accepted. That then the masking comes into play, or that you just can't. You can't deal with certain situations. For example, I can't really work around a lot of other people all the time. So like if I was sat in an office, I'd be sitting there thinking that everyone's looking over my shoulder, you know, or like when you get emails with loads of people CC'd into them and they're all looking at you, it's almost like paranoia. It's almost a paranoia.
That's a really good way to describe it.
Yeah, it's almost paranoia, and you're worried. Like there's been times, especially there was a time when I was basically afraid of my phone and WhatsApp was terrifying. I would get a message, I'd be like, oh God, what now? And I'd look at my phone, and the thought going through my head as I'm scanning these words really quickly is, what do they need from me? What do I need to say? What's the right answer?
It's constantly living in fear.
Yeah.
Really, like in jobs that I've been in, you get called into your boss's office. And it could be for anything. It could be for anything. And you in your head think, that's it, I'm getting sacked.
Oh, 100%. I've had that so many times.
Yeah, you're just constantly living in fear of, you know,
of being rejected, even if that's not even on the cards, you know.
Exactly, yeah.
And I guess especially, to add another point, if we are these unknown, so undiagnosed ADHDers that have grown up feeling worthless, having to mask, even though not knowing, it's this idea of getting found out.
Yeah.
The game is up.
It's a bit of like imposter syndrome, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's all of the imposter syndrome, the rejection, sensitive, everything
jumbled
into one. Yeah. And then the irrational thoughts start, and it's just learning to rationalize with yourself.
Exactly. It's how quickly you can fall down a hole. You know, you ask somebody for something in an email, they don't get back to you. Well, they haven't got back to you because they haven't read it, or they read it and then they fell asleep. But in your minds, they're purposely ignoring you because you might have said something wrong. What did I do? Blah, 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 blah.
You spend a lot of your time looking at worst case scenarios and dwelling in those places. When you don't even really know the answer, you're just preempting what may or may not happen. So you sit worrying about the worst case scenario when actually that might not ever happen.
No. And it's like, how can we, you know, that relate for me, it's like, that's why I'm never focusing, or a lot of the time I can't focus because I'm too busy worrying about, you know, my RSD. How am I supposed to focus on my work, or how am I supposed to focus on what I'm doing, driving, if all I'm worried about is an email that happened, you know, or a conversation that happened 2 weeks ago, and I'm still thinking about it and I'm still beating myself up about it.
Yeah, so, you're just constantly in your head.
Constantly, yeah.
All of these irrational thoughts are just being thrown at you.
Yeah. Do you know what? Another really good one is like people like things like, so obviously the you know, ADHD is, we are no stranger to conflict, and if you have conflict with somebody or something's happened, and even if it's just a little thing, like how long that can stay with you. And I would look at other people and be like, well, yes, you've fallen out with this person, but like it's Monday and you've got work, or you're going to go to that party next week and you're about to go on holiday and everything's fine. I'm like, what do you mean everything's fine? I've got this one tiny little aspect in my life that isn't all right, and so now everything's fucked, you know? It's like
exactly. And it's like when people say, you know, my mum or my dad would always used to say to me, you know, just get over it. It doesn't matter. They're not worrying about it. Why are you? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm still bothered by it.
I always find it interesting as well, because people speak about, you know, like the superpowers, and people are saying that it's, but having ADHD, you get such an advantage because you get to hyper focus. But the problem is you do not get to choose what you hyper focus on, and that can be really problematic.
Exactly, yeah.
Do you know, it's funny because on reflection, it's so weird. The things that you know are going on, but you don't have the vocabulary, you don't have the understanding of what they are. And I remember that. I remember like sitting down at school to do something and thinking, do that thing where you just fucking do it. Do that thing where your brain just like, honestly, I had this one lesson, this one exam, and I got the top marks that anyone's ever got. Like I literally got 100% on this. Wow. It was a random thing. It was like a writing about a really old movie. Now Voyager. And I wrote like every single point. They were like, no one has ever done that. And I was just like on fire. Like I was in that film and I knew how to write every single thing, like all the right words, the right vocabulary that I'd been taught about film and whatever. And then there were so many other times I'd sit and be like, do the Now Voyager thing. Go on, like trying to make the laser beams come out of your eyes and you just can't.
No.
You can't do it.
So I think that's what Dawn just said there. That's the difference, isn't it? Superpower is something that you'd like to be able to choose to switch on and use.
Have some control.
And we can't do that.
Utilize an actual tool. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Wouldn't it be great if I could just focus now, or I don't know, be impulsive now when I'm about to take a really good risk? You know, like
really instead I'm second guessing myself and can't make a single decision. Task paralysis.
Impulsively. If we could use it like that, then ADHD would be bloody amazing, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are you currently hyper focusing on? But I think I know the answer to that.
Well, this ADHD, also my medication, because I've been reading lots about it because I'm away to start it. So that's
I'm so excited. So you're going to give an update, aren't you, on your?
Yeah. Well, I'll update as it goes along. Yeah. So.
And you're going to be on different medications, aren't you? Yours is different.
Yeah. So I'm on Elvance, and Dawn's going to be started on Ritalin.
Yeah. 3 times a day.
Very different.
Not sure how I'm going to remember to do that, but.
Hopefully the pills make some pills.
Yeah.
What's that, sorry?
You're gonna need to think some hacks, aren't you, for that? Cause
yeah, absolutely. I've got a few ideas and stuff in place, so we'll see.
Good. Yeah. Fingers crossed.
We're hyper focused on all of the different things that we want to do, and it's really funny, like because it's just that there literally are not enough hours in a day, and if there were, we'd only think of more things to do anyway. Yeah. So like I was talking to a friend about it because I was like, do you think you would be able to help us? Because like there's all these different things that we need to do and there's da-da-da. And she was just like, none of those things are related. Like what? Like why are you? You just said all of this as if this comes in one package with a bow on top. You're literally talking about 15 different things all at once. But it's non-linear thinking, and actually it opens doors and it makes sense to us.
Yeah.
But
we're good at brainstorming, isn't it? Because we can go one to the other.
It's
not related at all.
I'm surprised that ADHDers can't use their eyes independently.
Yeah. When you're talking to someone who hasn't got ADHD and you see their after what you sort of calm down, you stop talking, you see their face and they're like, I have no idea how you just. It's one of your questions, but I'm going to ask because it's the end of the year. It's December. What is the most ADHD thing you have done this year?
This year?
What wins the award of the year?
ADHD thing ever?
I can't remember. Yeah, the most ADHD thing I did was start a podcast about ADHD and get a tattoo about ADHD when I didn't even have an official ADHD diagnosis. There you go.
Impulsive, reckless.
Like we didn't have the first clue what we were doing when we started this. It was just like, let's do it. And I certainly probably wouldn't have pulled my socks up and got it done if it wasn't for you.
Yeah.
You were the one that was just.
But I wouldn't have even done it if it wasn't for Dawn. And that's what's so funny is because Dawn just went, because you can be really blasé about things sometimes. And she just went, yeah, let's do our own. And I was like, yeah, all right. And then about a week later, you're like, no, let's do our own. And I was like, well, okay then. And then because we had, I was doing this event, like anti-fast fashion shop small event. We raised funds for the charity, the ADHD Adults Charity. And I forgot what I'm talking about. Oh yeah. and there was going to be some press at the event. And so I was saying to Dawn, right, all right, do you know what? If we're going to do this, let's get at least one episode out before my event, because then we can talk about it in the local press and hopefully get some people in Aberdeen to listen to us. So we started in May and my event was in August. And by the time August came round, we were...
Like, yeah, we were already all over the
we
press.
were, you know, we were coming up to 100,000 downloads, or not. You know, we were all over the place. We'd interviewed Clementine Ford, and suddenly, you know, had this huge following in Australia. And yeah, it's it really was the two of us. And even that, like, do you know what's interesting about it? I know this isn't the question, but what's interesting about it is how we egg each other on, because there's been times when. It's actually so my mum pointed out about me in the past is that I want other people to succeed, and I'll quite often just be like, well, they need this, so they need to go and do that, and I'll help them. How's your day? And good luck with your job. And I'll be all into that other person. So there's definitely been times where I haven't really even thought about myself at all. I've just wanted Dawn to do it. I've wanted Dawn to do well, or like.
And I definitely wouldn't have been able to keep doing this without you.
Yeah.
No way. I'd have given up donkeys ago.
Yeah.
But hopefully now, with medication starting soon, I'll be able to, you know, have a bit more momentum about me.
We have the evidence now. It is worthwhile. It's not just the two of us talking nonsense. I mean, predominantly it is that, but it's doing some good.
So how did you get over the barrier? Did you have barriers where you thought, oh, I can't do this when it comes to the podcast? Or was you straight away like, well, we can do this?
Oh no, we've had loads of issues.
Yeah.
We've had loads of issues.
But it's talking them out, and eventually.
Yeah.
Like we speak them out, we communicate, and we get through them.
Yeah.
And like you've been super supportive, like obviously with me going through my diagnosis, and like I'm at uni, I'm working part-time plus doing this as well, and you've taken a lot of weight on your shoulders to help me get through this. And like I am eternally grateful for that, and we wouldn't be where we are if it wasn't for
it's that one truth. I'm so fucking determined, and I've never been so determined, and I've never really believed in anything more than this ever. So it's just not going to stop. So when, you know, there's been times when Dawn's been like, you know, it's quite a lot of pressure, can we slow down? And I'm just like, no, sorry, can't. I'll do it. I'll do really long days. I don't fucking care. I'm not going to stop. I can't. We can't lose momentum. This is important, you know. So yeah. But it is tough. And I think, you know, it's hard because obviously Dawn has got uni, and that's her priority, you know, that's what she was signed up to before she was doing this. Whereas the other things that I have going on, I can sort of, have you frozen? Are you still there? Are you still there? The other things I can sort of juggle a bit, which has meant that I've put other things on the back burner a bit. And, you know, it can be really, really difficult. But I think now that we know the value in what we're doing,
changes a lot.
You know, it's our purpose and it's our duty. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? People are saying that we've changed their life and got them through this dark spell. Like, what, we're going to stop just because, you know, we're tired? No.
And that's the thing, I suppose, where you've got those differences. You benefit off each other, don't you? Like, you both bring something different to the table, and there'll be times maybe when other stuff comes up for you, Laura, and then
all the time, like, you know, like
exactly, you're a team is what's so amazing. You've got each other. Like
yesterday, I did not have the balls to send. It was about 4 people that I had to message, and so I'd kind of just made a little lie to myself. I said, "Oh, it doesn't matter though, does it? I don't need to. It's fine though, isn't it?" And I was like, "Just message them."
I'm like, "What have you got to do?"
Just that.
No, I don't need to. Just message them. Okay, yeah.
And it was beneficial. It was beneficial. We got some answers.
Just didn't have the balls.
So yeah.
Honestly, you're wonderful. You've got such a special bond in it. You can just see it. You know, it's just so authentic. Everything that comes out of your mouth is just so authentic, and I love it. And you've made it so easy today. It's so inspiring. It's so amazing. Your energy to get, you know, to make change in the ADHD space is real.
Yeah,
it's happening.
Thank you.
We just never met anybody as ridiculous as ourselves before.
Thank you so much. I'm so sorry. I've so much
sorry if we chatted your ears off.
I loved it.
I'm so glad you did,
because honestly, let me pause this now.